Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for Indigenous Affairs, Senator Scullion. Can the Minister update the Senate on the government's support for Indigenous rangers and how this government's Indigenous Ranger program is supporting jobs in regional and remote Australia?
The Minister for Indigenous Affairs, Senator Scullion.
Thank you very much, Mr President. I thank Senator Bushby for the question and his long-standing interest in the outcomes for our First Australians. Can I say, Mr President, we are very, very proud of investment in Indigenous rangers. Our Indigenous Ranger program not only provides really good work for our First Australians, but also allows them to do what they've always been doing, which is looking after both their land and sea country. I'm pleased to update the Senate that we now have more than 2,500 of our First Australians are indeed employed as Indigenous Rangers as a consequence of our investment of now more than $500 million to 2020. The Indigenous Ranger program, and that also includes the Indigenous Protected Areas program. We've been a strong supporter of Indigenous Rangers since 2007, when the Coalition introduced the Indigenous Rangers program. They've now enjoyed record levels of funding since we entered government in 2013. Funding for the Indigenous Rangers is now at $70 million. This is a program that is committed by all in this place, and it's terrific that everyone in this place supports it. I'd like to acknowledge the commitment not only from the other side, the Greens and Nico's team Xenophon, and the other members of the crossbench. Indigenous Rangers are just like police and health workers. They are part of the environment forever. There is always a little scuttlebutt that suddenly we're going to cancel the funding. This is an important part of our essential frontline services. I'd like to also indicate that we've committed funding to $15 million for the new IPAs. I'd like to take the opportunity to congratulate each and every ranger right across the spectrum of Australia who are doing what a wonderful job of looking after our environment and their land and country.
Senator Bushby, supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Can the Minister advise how the government's investment in training and education programs for Indigenous rangers creates long-term change for rangers across Australia?
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr President. This is an issue that has irked me and many in this area for some time. We've invested, since I've indicated, since 2007 in Indigenous rangers, but it became apparent after a number of years, for whatever it is, whatever the reasons are, it appears that the rangers were never going to get the similar powers of enforcement the non-Indigenous rangers had. And so we've made an investment of $30 million that's going to provide Indigenous rangers the same level of enforcement in fisheries, in wildlife, in border protection and in biosecurity protection that is enjoyed by any other notional ranger in the mainstream area. So this is going to close the divide, if you like, to ensure that rangers, Indigenous rangers, have exactly the same rights to inquire why you have a rhinoceros in your glove box as any other mainstream ranger. I had a fantastic time out with the Dimaroo Rangers in Nullarbor, and I have to commend again their remarkable work that they're doing in this area.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering the questions expired. Senator Bushby, final supplementary question.
Thank you. Can the Minister advise what other measures the government is investing in to support Indigenous rangers?
Minister.
Well, before we move forward with the $30 million investment, we wanted to ensure that this was the right way, and we needed to find appropriate way of bringing rangers up to the capacity to do that. So we had a $2 million specialised ranger program. Pleased to announce 28 rangers, particularly in North Queensland, are now working with fisheries, with biodiversity, with Gabrumpa as equals, doing exactly the same roles as other rangers have done. We're moving particularly into the biodiversity space, which is a very important space in border security. And if you match the cultural knowledge and the knowledge of country, that deep-seated knowledge of country, then who would be better placed to ensure that they are the front line of our biosecurity protection for North Australia? And this $2 million investment in a specialised Indigenous Ranger program will deliver that. So I'm working right across portfolios to ensure that any tasks that are done across the north of Australia or by Indigenous Rangers, that we allow them to continue that work.